On the 30th of December 2020, the commuter rail line between Montreal and Deux-Montagnes closed for good. This is significant because that was the last remaining electrified railway in Canada's network. So while some countries have fully electrified railway networks, like for example Switzerland, or the main railway network of the Netherlands, Canada's railway network now runs entirely on diesel. Luckily, that's just a temporary situation, since the province of Ontario is currently planning to electrify 260 kilometers of railway radiating out from Toronto. And besides, the reason that the Deux-Montagnes line was closed was to convert it to a light metro line as part of the Réseau Express Métropolitain. So it's still an electrified railway, it's just not part of the national network anymore. Which brings us to the topic of this video. What should Montreal do now with its electric commuter rail rolling stock? Montreal has two types of electric rolling stock. Most of the service between Montreal and Deux-Montagnes was operated by Bombardier MR90 electric multiple units. These trains are getting on 30 years old, so I'm afraid they may have reached their final destination already. But Montreal also has 20 Bombardier ALP45DP dual-mode locomotives. These were mostly used by the Mascouche line, which also used the Mount Royal tunnel to reach Montreal's central station. Since diesel trains are not permitted in the Mount Royal tunnel, they operated in electric mode from Montreal to Mount Royal, and then they continued to Mascouche in diesel mode along mostly non-electrified railways. These locomotives are only 10 years old, so they still have decades of service ahead of them. It would be possible to keep using them just as diesel locomotives, but since dual-mode locomotives are more valuable than solely diesel locomotives, it may be possible to sell them to another company and then buy newer diesel locomotives for the same price. So I thought it'd be interesting to explore the other systems which might be interested in Montreal's surplus dual-mode locomotives. Montreal's ALP45s run on 25 kV AC with a frequency of 60 Hz. So the most promising potential buyers would be the American commuter rail agencies which also use this system, which are New Jersey Transit, CT Rail, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, Denver RTD, and Caltrain. The most obvious option would be New Jersey Transit, because they already have a fleet of ALP45DP locomotives. They use them for the Midtown Direct services which connect non-electrified lines to New York Penn Station. Like Montreal's Central Station, Penn Station is accessed by tunnels where diesel operation is not permitted. But there's also a complication, because the tunnel to New York is electrified at 12 kV 25 Hz, not 25 kV 60 Hz. It's mostly the lines to Hoboken which are electrified at 25 kV. So if it's easy to retrofit the trains to support both systems, like the current ALP45s that NJT has, then Montreal's locomotives could be a cost-effective addition to that fleet. And if not, they could still be used on the long-distance services which terminate at Hoboken. A 100 kilometers to the east, we find CT Rail, run by the state of Connecticut, which has two of its own commuter rail lines. The Shoreline East, between New Haven and New London, is entirely electrified at 25 kV 60 Hz. But it currently only uses diesel trains. Thankfully that'll change soon with the arrival of the new Kawasaki M8 EMUs. And in any case, the line is fully electrified, so there's no need for dual-mode locomotives. CT Rail's other line is the Hartford line, between New Haven and Springfield. This line is not electrified at all, and there's no immediate plan to do so either. So overall, it doesn't look like CT Rail would have much use for Montreal's ALP45s. A better proposition would be the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, or MBTA, which operates the commuter rail services around Boston. The Providence Line, which runs between Boston and Providence, is almost entirely electrified at 25 kV 60 Hz. But it's exclusively operated by diesel trains. The only places which are missing overhead wires are the platform at Wickford Junction and the storage and maintenance facility. So Montreal's locomotives would allow the MBTA to immediately start electric service, even before those two segments get electrified. Then when they are completed and all electric trains can run on the line, the locomotives could be redeployed to the Stoughton line. Put simply, these locomotives would accelerate the electrification of the MBTA commuter network. And on top of reducing the noise, operational costs, and energy consumption in general, these locomotives would address the air quality issues at Back Bay Station. The station currently has an unacceptable level of pollution inside, and Amtrak services there exclusively use electric locomotives, so it's entirely the MBTA that's causing the problem. There is a construction project currently underway to improve ventilation and prevent exhaust from rising from the platforms into the station hall, but it would be even better to not create that pollution in the first place. One of the only fully electric commuter rail networks of the United States is that of the Regional Transportation District of Denver. In just 10 years since the start of construction in 2010, the RTD has already built 85 kilometers of dedicated commuter rail tracks, which are now used by 4 commuter rail services. But one of the projects which has yet to be completed is a rail service between Denver and Boulder. With dual-mode locomotives, such a service could operate on the existing electrified line between Denver and Westminster, and then continue to Boulder and Longmont on the existing BNSF freight line. One of the options given by RTD is a diesel service during peak periods only. But they estimated a cost of $700 million, and to raise that much money with their current revenue streams, they would have to wait until 2042. I don't really understand why it would take $700 million just to let 3 trains per day run on the existing BNSF line. But in any case, it doesn't sound like RTD is ready to receive any new locomotives. Our last system is Caltrain, which runs one line between San Francisco and San Jose, with a few trains per day which continue to Gilroy. Caltrain is currently electrifying the main line between San Francisco and San Jose, with the start of electric service planned for 2022. Montreal's dual-mode locomotives would allow the Gilroy services to use the electric lines between San Jose and San Francisco. Of all the systems I looked at, I think the most promising would be the MBTA. Because it's so frustrating that they exclusively use diesel power when they have a line that's already electrified. But at the end of the day, the future of Montreal's ALP45 locomotives will be determined by the discussions which are surely happening between Montreal's RTM and their American counterparts. And if none of those railways provide a satisfactory offer, the right thing for Montreal to do is to continue using the locomotive just as diesel locomotives. As boring as that would be for observers such as us.